Oh, my dad was.
Happening. All right, we're back in open session after the closed session. City Attorney, do
Nothing
we
to
have any
report.
reportable action?
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
With that, we will adjourn the special meeting and recommence our meeting at 6:00 p.m. Okay, with that, we will start our Selma City Council regular meeting, December 6, 2021. It is 6 p.m. in the Selma City Council chambers. The teleconference phone number is 1-301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 876-7137-8643. And consistent with AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953, this meeting will be held remotely. Members of the public may access the meeting using the mentioned teleconference phone number and the webinar ID. When on the phone, if you wish to address the council during public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise hand, and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to unmute and mute yourself. Tonight's invocation will be led by Council Member Mendoza Navarro.
Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance as we meet tonight to conduct business in our city government. Help us keep in mind that we are here to serve the people of Selma and enable us to make our decisions so that we make best for all the citizens we represent. Amen.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
Here. Okay, potential conflicts of interest. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing or voting on the matter. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Items of interest will be referred to the city manager for further review. Members of the public are asked to keep their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Any oral communications in the chambers tonight? Anybody on Zoom or on the phone who would like to speak at this point? Oh, we have someone.
Good evening, council members, City of Selma staff. My name is Stuart Skoglund. I'm the operations manager for Cal Water here in Selma. Just wanted to inform all of you and the city of Selma that we started a new project last week. It's what we call our flat to meter project. So we've got two more neighborhoods to convert from flat service to metered service. The first neighborhood that we started over on the west side of Highway 99 between Nebraska and Valley View, there's about 95 customers that we're converting over there. And also on the west side of the high school between Thompson and Mitchell, we'll be converting 250 customers from flat rate to metered service. So have that wrapped up in a few months. We did send letters out to the customers about a month ago informing them of the conversion. A little bit of background, most of the time customers are a little nervous when they switch to metered service, thinking they're going to, on their water bill, but I think most customers will be pleasantly surprised because the flat rate service here in Selma is a little bit on the high side. So it equals to about using 24 units of water a month. So if they start using less than 24 units of water a month, they're going to see a decrease on. And I have to wait and see what happens after March. For the folks that do use a little bit too much water and their bill is going to go a little higher, it might encourage them to. Wanted to inform all of you of what was going on. So questions, anyone can ask me now or reach out to me via telephone or email. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question, rationing. You guys started the discussions yet on conserving water? Any kind of water rationing measures for the coming summer if we don't get rain?
So I know that there was a lot of discussions back in 2015 when the drought was hitting us pretty hard. But I haven't heard of any recent conversations. Folks who work in that department down south in LA are having some big time meetings talking more about that, but we should hear some things about that more this spring.
else like to say something at this point? Phone, anyone on Zoom?
A reminder to the callers that we have on Zoom, if you wish to address council, please use the raise your hand feature and we will select you from the meeting queue. Robertson, at this time, I see no hands raised.
Thank you. With that, we'll start our first special presentation. Tonight, we have the Fresno County Public Health Department tobacco presentation. Welcome.
Hello. Oh, can I adjust it a little bit? I'm a little short. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and present this information to you. My name is Mei Chung, and I am a health education specialist with the Department of Public Health Tobacco Prevention Program. And today we're going to talk about new trends in tobacco use and new definitions. So if you can look at the screen right now, I want to do a quick knowledge check with you all. Which of these do you think is a tobacco product? And you can just look at the screen really quick and take a moment to think to yourself which one could be a tobacco product.
All four.
So I'll go ahead and reveal the answer. Every single device up there is a tobacco product except for B. B is just sparkling water. And the reason why I wanted to do this quick little knowledge check, if you could go to the next slide, is because tobacco products are now being shown as a multitude of different products. These new devices are very hard to distinguish from everyday items. And the reason for this innovation is because not as many people are smoking cigarettes. Tobacco use has been on the decline for years now. And the tobacco industry was forced to innovate. And to innovate, they created these new devices that look like everyday items. If you could go to the next slide, please. As you can see, for the more conventional tobacco products, they look like traditional cigarettes. These e-cigarettes looked like a cigarette and they functioned very similarly to a cigarette. They realized that those were not selling as much. They weren't that popular. So they decided to change the device and they decided to change the product, change the look of it, but keep the same function and keep the nicotine inside of it as well. So now you see devices out there that are being sold that look like vape pens. They may look like tanks, mods, and now they're looking even more modern. We have seen devices out there that look and function like an Apple Watch, but they're actually a vape product. And we have seen pens that look and function just like a normal pen, but they are actually a vape device. Now, all of these vape devices function the same way. You put in a substance called an e-liquid or an e-juice, and that gets heated up and turned into an aerosol for the user to inhale. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So these e-liquids or e-juices come in bright, colorful packaging, and they're very youth-friendly. They have child-friendly designs that make it easy to hide from adults or from parents. And all of them contain nicotine or trace amounts of nicotine. And they come in over 15,500 different flavors for youth to try. And for this reason, a lot of youth have been trying these products. These new products look like technology. They're easy to hide from parents, and they come in a lot of different types of flavors that make it easier to use. If we could go to the next slide. Thank you. And the data shows it here. In the 2019 to 2020 school year, we collected data from local Fresno County schools to measure tobacco use. Our data showed that 22% of Fresno County high school students use vape devices, while 5.6% of Fresno County students use cigarettes. As displayed in the picture, you can see that students are running away from cigarettes. They're not using traditional tobacco products. They're using these new and innovative vape devices that can be easily hidden, that can be easily hidden from teachers, from their parents. And these new devices are distinguishing themselves away from traditional tobacco products. They're creating their own terminology and their own definitions, which is where we are at today and why we have a problem. So we could go to the next slide. This creates a loophole in our current policies. Because these new devices are giving themselves their own terminology and distinguishing themselves away from traditional tobacco products, city laws may contain loopholes that, for example, would allow e-cigarette use in an otherwise smoke-free area. And this may be because there's an outdated definition that doesn't include aerosol or doesn't include the new tobacco product. Areas in Selma's municipal code may have the outdated definition for tobacco and may cause that loophole. So if we could go to the next slide. Thank you. We already know that secondhand smoke exposure is terrible for human health. Public places that children frequent, such as parks, are concerning because they may be exposed to this. And we know that exposure to secondhand smoke can cause negative health effects, such as lung cancer, other different types of cancer, asthma attacks, and chronic pulmonary obstructive disease. So if we could go to the next slide. As for e-cigarette aerosol, we know that it's just as harmful as secondhand smoke exposure. E-cigarette aerosol can contain harmful substances such as cancer-causing chemicals, heavy metals, and ultrafine particles. All of this can aggravate asthma attacks and cause breathing difficulties among our youth who may be exposed to this aerosol for long periods of time. Right now, we don't know what the long-term exposure, what can happen to very long-term exposure to e-cigarette aerosol, and that's just because the research isn't there. Vape products became very popular in the early 2010s, and because of that, the research just isn't there to measure what can long-term exposure to aerosol do to a human body. If we could go to the next slide. Now, in order to solve this, to reduce exposure, it would be to close up the loopholes. In 2016, the state had updated their definition for tobacco in order to close up the loopholes and to include all of these new and emerging tobacco devices. And Selma's definition for tobacco can do the same by following the state definition. The different areas where the definition should be updated in the Selma Municipal Code are exposure to minors, skate park, and smoke shops. As for the definitions that should be updated, they are tobacco product and smoking. For tobacco products, it should include the new and emerging tobacco products, such as these vape devices and e-cigarettes. For smoking, it should be inclusive of aerosol. And as the presentation comes to a close, I would like to offer any assistance in terms of community education to let the community know about these new and emerging tobacco products. And so that they're aware that there are new tobacco products out there in the market that youth are able to access and what the health effects of these devices are. Any questions?
Okay, does anybody have any questions for me?
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. I know, May, we talked a few months ago in regards to doing a presentation at the high school, like
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
with the leadership class
Mhm.
or our middle school, because, you know, there's a big problem from what I've heard, and I think that would be a great start. And also, I was just thinking even partnering with our Boys and Girls Club, you know, maybe do a presentation there as well, and with
Mhm.
these other youth groups, I think would be very helpful. So,
Do you have the contact for the Boys and Girls Club here?
I do.
Okay,
I can give
perfect.
you that, or
Okay.
I can have Raina get you that information.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I believe you had a question as well?
Yes, I do. So on the laws or the municipal, because I believe California is a no smoking in apartment complexes. I think that's a big well, I know I come from the industry of apartment complexes, so I know we have a very strict non-smoking policy in our lease. But looking at this, I know we address e-cigarettes, but I didn't think about the vapor or the other type of things. Do you guys do like educational Zoom presentations for apartment complexes? Because I think more and more apartment complexes are now, you know, property managers are now banning cigarettes from or tobacco from their
Okay.
units.
I'll have to check in with my supervisor to see what our new scope of work entails, and then I can get back to you with an answer. Is that all right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine. You can send them the to Raina.
Urena. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
When Councilmember Guerra and I met with you and you folks in our office, you said that you were going to work with the city on drafting some new ordinance language to modernize it, to keep up to date with all of these innovations that are going on. Has that started? Have those discussions started? Because Selma's revamping ordinances and probably a pretty good time
Yes,
to
I've been in
revamp
touch
the
with
tobacco
Mike
one
here.
too.
Mayor Robinson, member of City Council, she was in touch with myself. I interpreted this when she first came as more parks. And so I've been in contact with both interim city manager Ralph Jimenez and Fernando, that this is beyond just the park. So we've started those conversations.
Okay, great.
Great.
Sounds good. Did anyone else have any questions for May tonight? Do we have anyone on the phone or on Zoom who would like to ask a question of?
As a reminder to those that are on Zoom, if you wish to address council, please use the raise your hand feature and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, we have no hands raised at this time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very informative.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and placed back on the regular agenda. The council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Do any council members have any items they would like to take off the consent calendar tonight?
Mayor Robertson, if I could just mention first that there are two corrections to the consent agenda item 1G, the First Amendment with the EDC on the Central Valley training. There are two corrections to the agreement. And you can, I can point those out, or if you want to pull the item for discussion, we can get into the specific changes, but they involve pages 53 and 54.
You want to just tell us now?
Yeah, 53, we're adding a to the scope of services under Exhibit A, scope of services task 2, item 7. And in the contract, the amendment reads, shall add the following key component of the curriculum, rail/train safety, and the new language added to that is parenthetical, for future contract extensions beyond 2022, if required by the high-speed rail authority in parentheses. Then we are changing the signature from the mayor to the city manager to be consistent with the original agreement, which was signed by the city manager.
Those are the only changes? And we'll see the final document in the minutes for the meeting. And we'll see those minutes for the meeting, or where will we see those changes to the contract? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any items they'd like to take tonight?
I'd like to take off the. Sure.
Okay, item F.
Item F.
Is there a
thing.
motion? Sorry? Is there a motion to approve items 1A through E and G?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Is there a
second
second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
it. Yes.
for Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, okay, item F.
I have one on the page 47. It's for check number 78416 for Gateway Engineering, Dinuba McCall Traffic Signal. And it's for the amount of 10,520, and it says reimbursement. I just like to know, what's the timing on that?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. With that project, we are just finalizing the agreement with Gateway Engineering to continue work on that project. So we expect to have, actually, most of the design is done on that. It's just a matter of going out to bid for that. And we expect that sometime in the middle of 2022 is when that project could be completed. We are under a timeline for those funds, to utilize those funds, so it is a time-sensitive project.
And that will be signal light, right? That'll be installed on Dinuba and McCall. That's
That's
where we
correct.
get so many complaints about. Oh, perfect. So somewhere mid-time.
Yeah, of 2022.
Into, okay.
I was gonna add on to this, but since she brought it up, I'd like to, I was gonna ask to, if you can actually put it on the agenda, that McCall, please. I was gonna do it later down today, so you could just put on the agenda for discussion. I think it's a really important topic that we need to talk about.
Yes, we can do that.
I've got a question. Are you done with the items? 78374, it's at the top of the page, 47, ANS pump service. Relocate pump from Pine to Orange, repair lift pump to Orange and Oak. Is that an SKF issue, or is that the city doing that work? What kind of pump is that?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is Shane. That's one of our storm drain pumps that we took offline of CID's ditch, and we relocated it to a different pump house where we're going to utilize it.
Thanks, Mr. Director. Is that city property, or is that CID property?
No, that's city property.
Thank you for that. Okay, on page 48, 78437, Lozano Smith Legal Services, September 2021. Now, does that bill, the 33,268, does that include the personnel work as well? The employment practices?
Yes, it would, because that's the invoice from September.
Okay, I'm just checking on that. Thank you.
I have one more, sorry. Page 48, it's the top one. Not sure what number, but it's for Glacier Refrigeration Senior Center Ice Machine for the amount of $688.81. I know that's for a repair, but it seems like we do quite a bit of repairs there. Have you guys looked into maybe replacing it?
Yeah, we are looking to replace it. That one's about 6-7 years old, so it's fairly new, but it did go out. And we use
I know we have an ice machine in our office as well, and when it went out a couple of times, I mean, it was just better to replace it.
Yeah,
So,
we're
I
looking
mean-
at this too, because Schaefer Parks is about 8 years old. And
mhm,
it has a leak, so we're kind of
Okay.
gonna combine those two. But you are correct. They don't last a
Yeah.
long time, unfortunately.
okay, so you are looking to replace it. Okay, good job.
Is there a motion to accept item F?
I'll make a
Is there
motion.
a second?
I'll second.
Call roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, no public hearing items scheduled, so tonight we'll move into regular business items, starting with the item number 2, consideration of a purchase and sale agreement between the City of Selma and the First Christian Church of Selma, and authorize the city manager or designate to execute all documents and take all actions necessary to complete the purchase. Fire Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We've discussed and I've briefed council on this a number of times, but they have been typically in closed session. So for the sake of the public, I'll just give a quick summary as to the analysis and how we've come along with this project. We determined for quite some time now that we do need a new fire station to replace the A Street station. It was built in the mid 1950s and has definitely served the city well, but has run its course. And in doing that, some studies that were done early on in the early 2000s indicated that station would not be in the right location to account for future growth within the city. And location meaning response time standards that we strive to meet nationally indicate that we need to get to the call from the fire station, leaving the fire station, and getting to that call within 4 minutes. And it was determined during those studies and verified recently by studying our response times that indeed did come to fruition as the city expanded and we were having trouble meeting those response time standards in the north and northwest part of the city. So that being the case, we started reviewing possible locations. As you're well aware, this project has been in the works for a couple of years now. And we ended up studying 3 to 4 locations and analyzed response times and things like that and various locations. And we did come to the location here at Huntsman and Thompson. It's a 4.2 acre lot owned by the First Christian Church of Selma. And we determined that would be an ideal location for the project and to put a new fire station. Our response times, it spreads out the 2 stations. So the 2 stations sit too close together right now. A Street and downtown are too close together. And when you look at their abilities to get within 4 minutes, they overlap. And you want as minimal overlap as possible. So by moving this station to the north, that will, excuse me, that will eliminate a lot of that overlap. This location will also still allow good coverage to the east, and especially to the northeast part of town, utilizing Dinuba as a response avenue. It also, utilizing Nelson Boulevard, we all know how busy Floral can be in trying to get out to the western part of the city. Utilizing Nelson Boulevard onto Highland is an excellent route of travel that will also help us bypass a lot of the busy parts of Floral. So we did determine in summary that this would be an ideal spot. We have spoken with First Christian Church of Selma, and after negotiations came to an understanding, an agreement on a price of, accurate here, $546,000. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions for Chief Peterson?
I just have one. You just mentioned Nelson and Highland. That would be the route to take from that station? Is that what?
That would be a potential
Oh.
alternate route. Normally, when you're thinking of the west side of town, you would think of Floral. We would jog down from Thompson to Floral and then head west. But knowing how busy it is and how difficult it can be to get from Floral and Whitson to Floral and Highland, a lot of times we have to oppose traffic and things like that to get through there. An alternate route staff understanding the time of day and things like that, we could go down Nelson, connect at Highland, and then come through bypassing Floral, making it a faster route.
I'm just thinking about those center dividers that are right there, and there's always cars along
There
there.
are,
And so that's just something to just kind of think about. Maybe we can, I don't know, redo those center dividers eventually, or, something, just because we've gotten already.
it does, and we do deal with that all along Nelson Boulevard, from not only in that location, but
The
on
other
the other
side,
side as
yeah.
well.
They're picking
A
the
lot of
kids
times
up.
it's important to make sure the trees are trimmed back along that location. That does help with our apparatus getting through there. It would be a challenge. It would just be an alternate route that we could utilize to save some time
That would be
during the
good.
busy times of day.
And I know this isn't happening tomorrow, but that's what I'm thinking about today,
Yeah.
is that that's kind of a busy street. So,
It is a challenge to get through there.
all right, thank you.
The exciting thing about this is the project's 4.2 acres is big enough to accommodate a lot of city projects.
Absolutely.
So, we did that capital improvement plan a couple of years ago, and one of the big things was a sports center, a community center. One question I do have is, since the two existing fire stations kind of overlap in their response capabilities, has there been any thought given to closing one of those stations and maybe utilizing that for a city function, or are those two still viable stations for city purposes?
For fire service, for fire response, we would eliminate A Street and incorporate this station with the downtown station.
Oh.
There is still plans within the thought process phase of utilizing A Street possibly as an EMS station as that division develops and advances. You
As
approved the
opposed
lease
to having
agreement
the Rose Avenue
for the Rose
office?
Avenue, and once we were out of there, that's why we made that lease agreement about 3 years with the anticipation, hopefully, of moving forward with this project, and that would give us another location to.
If I have a question, what's the timeline that we're looking to build the fire station, and what would be the funding source that we're going to use?
I believe that we are looking at multiple options for funding. I do believe that the ambulance fund can pick up some of that, but certainly not all of it. Obviously, this is going to be a big project. I know we'll be working, city staff will be working, and I'll be ready to go as soon as we can establish a funding source and continue to move forward with this project. I think the next step would be looking at design and getting the design going on how this would be developed. And I think we could do that, hopefully utilizing some ambulance funds, maybe this coming fiscal, and just keep the project moving forward.
Yeah, so I think unlike the over budget police station that utilized the ambulance fund inappropriately, in my opinion, I think this is very appropriate to use ambulance fund because ambulance service is part of the fire department
Oh,
now.
absolutely.
in the city of
We do have the intention of putting an ambulance at that location.
Right.
Not to mention, 80% of the calls that we respond to as a fire department are EMS related calls. So
Got Measure S and you've got ambulance fund potentially for the new station.
But, I just want to tell you, I'm happy to hear this. And at the same time, when people ask, how are we going to fund this? It's our job to find the money. We're the legislators. We're the ones that tell you where the money's coming from. And just to respond to the mayor, the police department being over budget, it's not about over budgeting. It's about what we do when we fund projects, how we fund them. And we do analysis and we find out how much money there is. And we do a survey as how much the money, what's it going to cost us? And we say, we budget. The city council does. So to the answer to Mr. Mayor, it's funny that the ambulance fund was used for the police station, but we're right now looking at a deficit of about $9.4 million for a park. So I would really caution you to speak about how we're over budget on items, but I want to come back to the ambulance fund or the ambulance. That 4.5 acres is going to be able to house that $2 million fire station that we purchased. That's the exciting thing.
Really?
Okay, so it's our job as legislators to find the money, to be constructive. I go back to the POB, pension obligation bond. That's gonna free up money. Our council will have the vision to see about what we're gonna be doing. I caution the council and ask everybody to say, don't look at what we've done in the past and how we look at what we're gonna do for the future. And with you being there, I commend you and I tell you that, you know, we are, as a council, we're gonna be looking at how we're gonna fund these projects. It's our job. If we say we're gonna build a fire station 2 years ago, we find the money. If we start talking about building a park in 2010, we should have got the money already. So I caution people when they start saying about over budget projects when we have a $9.4 million over budget park. So I thank you and I really I'm happy we're at this stage of the game. Okay.
It's an exciting project. I look forward to working on it.
All right. Any questions from anyone here tonight about the new fire station? How about on Zoom or on the phone? Come on up. Or do you need a mic? Do you want a microphone? Could we get Mr. Robinson a microphone?
Ken Robinson, 2432 Hicks. Thank you, Councilwoman, for bringing up the traffic or the narrowness of Nelson Boulevard. Also take in mind that Dinuba gets really crowded during sometimes of the day of people going to and from work from basically Golden State to McCall. And that's pretty narrow for someone to have to pull over for a, you know, so that's also something that we need to look at.
Okay. Do we have any other comments?
To the callers online, if you wish to address council, please use the raise your hand feature and we will select you from the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, at this time, I see no hands.
Okay. Is there a motion to, or is there any more comment? Or is there a motion to approve the purchase and sale agreement between the City of Selma and the First Christian Church?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a review and presentation regarding Rockwell Pond Park conceptual design and project budget.
Oh, those are. Yeah. Sure. It's okay. I'll keep them here. We'll keep 'em over.
Same.
It's the same.
Okay.
Double.
Double covered.
Mayor Robinson, members of the city council, tonight come before you with the presentation on where we stand currently on the Rockwell Pond project. Ray Magdaleno is here from Veneer Management, and also is Leaf McVeigh and Lance Riscom from RM Design, who will be going through the presentation. Next slide, please. Previously, we've touched base on the purpose, background, the Rockwell Park concepts and outreach, our community forums 1 and 2, our community input, and we'll finish with questions and conclusion. Right, next page, please. Tonight, we're just the purpose of the presentation is to direct staff on a specific meeting date in the future to bring back a completed park budget and a final concept for consideration of approval. This item is informational for tonight and is not required action. It's more of a presentation and, like I said, to update the city council. We do continue to work with the developer, which would be south of the park, and we are looking for additional funding sources that will continue to explore for future use and construction to get us on budget. Next slide, please. As you know, I won't go through this. You know, we were awarded the $4.416 million grant to Proposition 68. We used the demographics, the parks and the forums were open to the public, and we were required to complete the project by March of 2024. And we are looking into ways to, if we can get that deadline extended due to circumstances of the cost of supplies and materials. So I've reached out to Public Housing Affairs and they are looking into it for us. And there is some potential and it does seem like a possibility. We're looking at
Because
all options.
construction costs have gone up so much.
Yeah, and they did mention
COVID.
Townsend did mention that I think they would be considering it because other cities have made some contacts, not only because of materials and supplies, because of COVID though, and everything kind of being shut down. So looking at all options for the city. Next slide, please. The grant application required 5 community outreach meetings. We've had 2 community forums regarding design, current amenities design, and the concept for additional amenities, in which we had a good turnout. The second one, the first one was a little bit shy of people, but we got the word out a little bit better. The second one had some very good input, which you'll see later. We required open space, football size with lights was the #1 priority. 2 lit basketball courts, the water park, the ADA playground equipment, 2 picnic shelters, walking, biking trails, restrooms, and parking. Those are requirements. And the community forums, you'll hear later, some additional amenities and improving on these amenities is kind of what came from the meeting. And so I will turn it over to Lance from our in design, and he will be going through the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I want to also thank the community members who came out and supported us and provided good feedback with our concepts that we presented at community forums #1 and #2. The first workshop or forum was on October 7th, and we presented 2 different concepts. We could gain feedback from the community on what their preferred concept was from concept 1 and #2. And that was a unanimous approval for concept 1, which is there on the left of your screen. Next slide. Then what we heard from the community was in that concept, some of the things that they'd like to see were larger parking lots for the demand for parking. They wanted to ensure that the playground was inclusive and that the park itself provided all ADA accessibility. Provide turn lanes in and out onto Wolf into the park. And lastly, that the playground would accommodate potential future expansion depending on what the budget of our playground was. When we took that feedback, we went back to the office, reconfigured the design a bit based on what we heard, and came back on October 28th and presented these 2 additional concepts. In that time, staff had asked us to incorporate the amenities that the community were in support of, and so we provided that in these concepts. And so we got unanimous approval for concept 1. I'll walk through these concepts with you in the next 2 slides. So the entry road is there from your left, and the entry road drives into the park and provides 3 different areas for parking to access the areas of and amenities that your destination is. So whether you're going to the sports fields on your right or going to the ones on your left, you can kind of go to the parking lot of your destination. There's a 3/4 mile walking loop around the multi-use sports fields, 2 basketball courts. Sort of like the play core area itself, there's a restroom, family picnic shelters, large group picnic shelters, roundabout with drop off and a splash pad. And then there's up to the right, there's a hill with a lookout that's ADA accessible. And then from what we had heard, the community was interested in what some of these all abilities playground items might look like. And so these are just various images of the features that we would be including in the playground. More various examples of all abilities playground features. So what we heard from the community forum number 2 was that they were in support of concept 1. They were in support of the additional parking that we had provided from the original concepts. So we increased about 60, 70 parking spaces park. Did ask community if they were in support of the city purchasing the 5-acre parcel on the top left corner. They were in support of that. And this, could be either future overflow parking for the time being, or upon your direction, what that parcel could accommodate. And then we asked if there was more budget allowed, what would they be interested in? These are the top choices, were sports field lighting. Right now with the grant, we're just looking at lighting 2 sports fields. We're looking at lighting additional sports fields under that comment. They were interested in a bigger destination playground and more picnic areas with shade. They also said more shade trees throughout the park. And if we had budget for additional items that was not in the grant requirements and what we didn't originally scope in the park itself, they were interested in pickleball courts, dog park, exercise and fitness stations that could be scattered around the walking path. And then, as I said before, additional sports lighting. And now we get to like, what is this preliminary concept cost? And like we mentioned before, the fluctuation is dependent on the pandemic. The prices are kind of high right now, so we're kind of seeing this variation in degree. So because it's still a concept, we just provided a low and a high number, we think it potentially would cost. And we've already included about $2 million of the park upgrades that I mentioned before in the park development cost right now. Then we have the land bridge in there. The additional community desired features, the 1 million, that's the pickleball courts, the dog park, and the exercise stations in that. And then included with the direct and hard costs and soft costs, and then the offsite improvements. The total project budget ranges between 21 and what happened to the mic?
I have a question for you. On the when you do the when you're talking about the, let me get to it, multi-use sports field, will those soccer fields already be, is that already, you're factoring that in to already be there, or they'll have those in?
So they're going to be
Or is it just gonna,
they're full-size soccer fields, but it's just going to be the grass, and then the striping or the goal post will be moved around based on
got
how
you,
they
I
want to
got
use
you,
it.
yeah, okay. And then I say this because we built, or we helped out in Visalia when we built that park. The question I have for you is on the budgeted item, is that actual already have the lights for that section? Or no, the lights for that area also?
So we're showing lighting for 2 sports fields. In the
This is already
cost.
included in both sports, okay.
Correct. And
Okay.
then the additional amenities, that's including lighting for 1 additional sports field.
Did you
two
guys
totals.
additionally include that 5-acre parcel on the left?
The cost in there is in the additional items, that's I believe it was like 427,000 for the improvements on 5 acres, but
Not the purchase
but
of
not
the
the
5
purchase of the
acres.
property.
Has anybody done any research on what the actual cost or what the price would be for that 5 acres?
It's
Yeah, it
what
would
the
be
county
probably
wants.
similar. The property was appraised as part of the grant. And so, and the county owns that 5 acres also. So the price that was discussed previously in closed session would, but we are working with the county, maybe potentially.
Okay. Okay. I have a couple of more questions, but anybody else has questions?
Okay, I have a question. The low cost, you're telling me it's gonna be 21 million to build this park?
As we have it designed and with the amenities that we've shown you tonight,
Okay,
that would be that number, correct?
but some of these amenities can be taken out. correct? This is not going to be true, I mean, set in stone. This is stuff that we have to really look at, which is another thing. I would have really liked to see this before today. I mean, I wish it was attached to our agenda, so we had time to look it over and make our, you know, our questions, we could have addressed them.
At a time.
We just have so much questions now, you know. The designs look great, but again, we're back at $21 million for a park. And I'm gonna ask the question because as a councilwoman or council person, it's our due diligence to know 21 million. Here we thought we were only gonna be at a 9-point-something million dollar park. I mean, this is just way out of our reach. Yes, we can get grants if we get them, but if we don't, I mean, it's really going to be out of our reach. And we got to be, I'm going to say it, you know, it's our job to look for it, but if we don't have the source to find the means for this, where's it going to come from?
Yeah, so, okay, so we're not even at the budget stage yet. These are theoretical numbers, right? This is the difference between this and the police station. We had numbers then and we exceeded those. We haven't even gotten to that stage. So looking at this point, these are kind of notional numbers. If we go forward tonight and tell you, hey, you know, we have constraints here. You can pretty much, you're the design build piece. So your job after tonight is to actually come up with some specs for a bid, right? To go out to bid for, and that's the budget, the real numbers. You're not going to give them the budget, right? The contractors, because they have to bid on it with them, and the city picks the most competitive bid, and hopefully we get enough bids to make it competitive. But what you're looking for from us tonight is what to include, whether to include the additional cost. But these budget numbers, the low and the high, they seem pretty abstract to me, you know, in terms of what's the relation between that and what the actual construction bids are going to be.
Maybe I could just weigh in a little bit, Mayor Robertson and council members. On where we're at in the process, it's still early. You can see it's still a concept plan. But really, we're at a point where council needs to make some decisions about prioritizing. Number is out of reach. We just need direction as to, okay, what does the city want us to do? So costs are the costs. So things cost what they cost, and the plan is the community. So that's kind of the starting point. Now, if we need to pull and push on that plan, that's what we can do in the next phase. But I will just say that halving the cost will probably mean phasing it and just building less. At some point, you can't just make things. It may be that certain features or certain areas of the park need to be deferred or delayed, depending on what council's direction is to us on a budget number. So maybe that's just good sort of starting point, that this is the start of a discussion. That's not how much it's going to cost when we're all said and done necessarily.
These are just conceptual numbers that what it could cost. Should we go low or high? These are parameters that you're showing without showing the cards in the hand.
They are, and I would also say that I'm not sure, but I think this may be the first time that council has seen all the numbers. So if you notice at the top of that table, there's
We
a
haven't seen
direct
a budget.
development
We haven't
cost.
seen- we just know what we have to put in, right? We just know what amenities
But
we have to put
there's
in.
a lot of costs downstream of that maybe you have or maybe you haven't seen lumped in, which represents more of a true cost of doing a project.
So let me back up. Let me just back up real quick here. So what you guys have done is you guys have met with the community, got their input, and you've actually put in a Cadillac budget of what the people want. But there are some true numbers in there, and I understand because I've been in construction. There are true numbers that are not going to move. they're not gonna move. And you're telling me that they're there already. Through the weeds, they're there already. Okay, so if you eliminate things, so my question, and I'm not objecting to nothing. My question, I think from a council, from a point of view of all of us is, can we get to a point where we can actually get a layered down structured cost on the basic, what the land is, what the engineering costs are, and because every month it's going to cost us more money. We know that. So if we're on this stage right now talking about this, we know that in about 3 months from now, it's $1.4 million more. And that's a true statement. So what I want to know is if we can get to a point where you can at least give us, the mayor and all of us, we can understand the land costs this. This is going to be the structured plan for sewer, the water. Then we can look at where we can pull from, because right now, I think you're right. I think the harsh number is there's been some numbers that haven't been actually brought to us. So right now we're a little surprised, but I don't think that it's a number. I don't think it's a far-fetched number. I'm a realist, and I seen for that much of acres, I think it's a true number. But I just think that right now for us to digest it, it would be good for us to get you and your team to get together and probably get us some numbers, some numbers tiered down, so we can understand and fully understand it and get it through fast. Because this is a ticking time bomb. We got to get going.
Well, he was talking about extending the deadline, but that's no guarantee, right?
No,
That
that's
the
what I'm
state's
saying
going to
right now.
extend the
I wanna-
2024
We should have
deadline.
had that layered.
We're on a tight timeline
Should
as
have
it
had
is.
that layered, and then no fault to no one. It would be good to understand, I've been in construction for 23 years, so I understand that part. But it would be good for the council to understand that land's costing us this, development's this, the engineering cost is this, and we can layer down and tier down and say, hey, you know what? If we break it down and we do a phase 1, here's the actual park and a hold for phase 1 this year, 24. But in 26, it's going to get this layer put on there. I'm just trying to.
That is certainly an option, is to identify a phasing approach.
I think they're ballparking it up though, because they got to put this out to bid and they don't want to show their hand either. They don't want to actually give targets and say, hey, you come in at 21.
Yeah.
That gives them carte blanche, the contractors to bid on that. We want a public bidding process, right? And from what I understand, we have to have a certain amount of amenities that we applied for in the grant. That is what we have to have, the baseline. I think if I'm understanding Councilman Trujillo correctly, can we get a bid or numbers with that? And then
We don't have to show. We don't have to show it to nobody.
ripple out
so we can
from
understand.
there. Conceptual numbers, not necessarily guidelines, because we want true competition among the contractors come in and build this. But at the same time, we have to know how much money that the council has to find and allocate as source funding to build this park, whether it's out of range or not.
Well, they do have a line item detail that backs up each one of these numbers here, both the low and the high. But again, I think right now, what we're looking for is some direction on the design itself. Now, if you're saying right now that, and whether or not we can cover the cost or not, we don't want to add the additional features, then that's going to affect the design. That's why they just need to know, do we want to design it based on the potential cost of 24.5? And then let's try to get the funding to support that. And if we can, ultimately, then we're going to have to phase the bat. Or do you just want to eliminate some features right off the bat? And I think that's what
We want to start with the whole.
I have a quick question, Mike. Didn't we go through this with Vanier just several months ago in regards to the concept, how the park was going to be, what it was going to look like? We had figures then, because I questioned it then.
Yeah, we had some rough
It was
figures.
14.9.
So I'm
That
just
was
saying
just
how,
before- no, go ahead.
I know it was prior to the meetings that we had, but again, we're talking about, we had a concept. So what happened? So how did we come to this?
You had a concept design at the point of time. I think the challenge has been the cost of material supplies have gone up. And after the first community forums, directed to
bucks.
get input at the second community
12 million
forum
bucks.
and to include all the amenities and all the
Could have built
additional
out the whole thing,
features.
right?
So the original concept, you had a
from
14.9 million too, may have had a downsized playground. Would have had a
Back from there.
downsized water park. It would have had maybe a less of a walking and biking trail. So when you take the creating a larger playground equipment, more features, adding the hill for the ADA, which is like a little hill that they go up in a wheelchair or walk and they overlook the park. Materials and supplies, adding the pickleball courts, the parking, everything that we added into this concept from the community second forum. And so community one, we talked about a budget and we were directed in community two is to open it up to forum and let the community have input. So what you're seeing tonight is all that input and put into a park is the dream park of what the community would like to see. Yes, we can backtrack a little bit. I like the idea of, you mentioned, the council mentioned phases, to where we're not shutting the door on a certain item. We're not shutting the door on a larger playground equipment. We're just saying, here's what we can do now, and we're going to
Right.
continue to build.
How do you
and build.
bid that though? How do you bid out an onion like that? Do you bid out the whole thing? I mean, when you actually go out to bid,
And I don't want to interrupt anyone, but see, what I don't want to do is I think that this community, I mean, things, we need to get to a point where we give the community something that they see that has value and looks big and it's a wow. Okay. So I don't want to shy away from people saying that, oh, we're out of budget for the 24 million. It's not about being out of budget. It's about having the imaginary figure saying that, you know what, we can do this. Okay. But what I'm saying is that I don't want to cut back things, but when I talk about tearing back and saying, hey, you know what, if this, can we go back and do a 3-tier program on this, all of it?
how do you bid that out? How do you go to contractors and say,
Well, you
phase
do
one,
phase
phase
one,
two,
two,
phase, you haven't bid phase one at a time or one phase at a time?
Mayor Robertson, there's several ways we can do it. We can bid it out as phases, or we can bid it out with bid alternates. So
Bid
you're getting
alternates.
prices for, you identify a certain area, like, let's just, for argument's sake, say the pickleball courts. That's a bid alternate. So you get a hard price for it, a hard bid, and then that alternate up or not. So you can do that with various pieces of flexibility to award a contract.
And they don't just all go high?
Well,
They just go with that
there's
top
certainly
number and
some
say, here
games you
are
can
all of our
play.
alternates?
There's certainly some games you can play, and if I knew how it all worked, it wouldn't happen, right? But it's not a perfect system, but there's ways we can do it. We can do it. Value for.
Almost not even the value, it's actually accomplishing point A, but making sure that we can extend and giving the ability to the legislators like ourselves to go and actually either find it or budget it and get it tiered down to make sure we can. I think Councilwoman Guerra said perfectly that, we have to do our due diligence. We have to make sure, right? And it's, that's part of our weighing in, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our community gets the best, and we've been fighting this for like 10, 15 years.
We need a new park. We haven't had a new park since 1989.
So,
It's time.
I
But
just think
we
that- I
have
just think
to
that-
make sure that it's funded.
I think that, in my own
Go.
personal opinion would be that, I think the shock factor for our council is the fact that we probably would have gotten it back and would have got it tiered down. We could actually digest a little easier. That's one. But number two is the point is, I certainly would not hope that, we run away from this just because we see a big number, that I think council has enough, we've spoken, Mr. Mayor, we've spoken about joining projects together, making sure that, that it's time for us to move in a direction. And I think it's time for us to sit and have some hard conversations and be able to talk to each other and compromise and say, X, Y, and Z, and this is where we're at. So, but everybody else has,
So tonight, we're not voting on anything. We're just deciding whether to just keep moving forward with the process, right? And for you, since you've taken the community input, you're gonna now put all this into numbers that you can bid out and get bids on, actual hard cost bids. But should we give direction that we wanted the whole thing in
He wants
phases?
direction.
You want direction like in whether it should be done in phases, how the bidding should be done, or just the numbers that you're gonna come back with?
you want the low or the high?
Well, I think it's probably premature to talk about the bid yet. We've got, there's more work to be done between now and that point. Staff will see it, staff see it on a weekly basis. Would like to come back with a plan that council agrees to moving forward with. Started to change after that point.
Actually put numbers.
I think
have-
you'll get that. I think you'll get that if you get us some information that is fruit, that will bear some, so we can understand it, because I think giving us, I mean, I think some of us are in shock of the $24.5 million. So
I appreciate that, and Councilmember Guerra, I do appreciate your sentiments. We're often in this position as consultants. If it's any solace, I could tell you that on a per acre cost, this is how much nice parks cost. It just so I think it's a factor of, it's a big park. It's almost 30 acres. So on a per acre basis, that's kind of how much they cost, and for a nice community amenity. So it's not that makes money fall from the skies, but that's a real cost of building a brand new park, and there's a lot of infrastructure costs that go along with it because it's undeveloped.
How about timeline? Where do we have to be in terms of timeline to meet the current 2024 deadline?
We're working hard to keep up. So any back pedaling is not insurmountable, but a challenge for the team because there's so many. So as soon as we can get some sort of clarity from the council picture project, or if we need to change it and go rather than later.
Well, I think we all want the park. Do we want to go with phases and kind of get that concept from you next so we can see how this park can be done in layers if we don't necessarily have all the financing to achieve the 21 or the 24 at the outset. Is that doable? And can that be done concurrently while you do your work and you keep bringing it back to council so we can see those numbers?
Talk about the timeline. We normally don't meet the second meeting in December. You normally don't meet the first meeting in January. So our timeline would be the third Monday in January for approval. But to answer your question, I think it'd be nice if we're on this discussion of phases and bringing it back to you again, if we could have a special meeting, have one more meeting and input. Councilman Guerra, this is what this was tonight for, is for you to absorb this and look at it. That's why it wasn't an action item. So I apologize if we didn't send out before. Our intent was this was like the showcase and then let you read it, absorb and talk about it before we took action. So I think we're on the same page of our thought process, but we just didn't send it to you in advance. So I apologize, but
We just need more detail on
Yeah.
these items. so
I
we
have a
can see.
question.
the mayor
just
was correct. We
clarifications
didn't
that
want
I
too much detail like you saw originally, is
Right.
because if the bidder starts
Right,
seeing that,
right.
then they
You
know.
don't
So
want to
a
give
special
it all
meeting
away.
in late December, early January would be really good so that we stay on track better.
Get that,
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
council member?
Yes, so, and are we looking at getting hard bids? Or are we looking at proposals or what are we looking at?
Yes, hard
The
bid.
hard bids? Okay. And so this is without saying, because again, we have to make it competitive, and fair. The initial cost estimate, is that what this is today? Or we don't even have that?
This is a preliminary
Very-
budget level estimate because but we'll have much more granular cost estimation happening. Track the costs more accurately.
So did you do so does this include value engineering or not yet? Okay, so is that what we would get?
Value engineering is a process of trying to reduce the cost through design. That would be something that we would do back from the hard bid question that you had. That's one of the things where you can see wild differences in
Competition.
That's why it's an estimate, not a guarantee. Under it, it's whatever contract is bid at the time. So if you get
But if you give your
enough
numbers away, they
people
all bid
bidding,
for that.
drives the prices
Yeah.
down.
And so I just started procurement a few months ago. So this is all, I'm understanding all the concept of, going out for bid and everything. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is in looking at this, I'm looking at the land bridge, like when, is that something that somebody else can pick up that cost, which is the Selma Grove? Because that's going to be a connection. So is that something that they've, looked at? Some of those other costs, like who else can be involved in those costs and see, okay, this is going to go in, like they said, phases. The other part I was going to talk about was as far as like maybe bidding out in lots, where like you said, this is the full scope and then this is the alternate scope. So is that kind of what you guys are looking at?
I couldn't speak to the question about other. That would be at a staff level.
So this is not source of the funds. It's just how much it's going to cost,
Gonna cost,
regardless
yeah.
of who pays and
Pays
who
for it.
partners with the
Mhm.
city on it. Whether it gets paid with grants, this is just the concept. We need to keep moving forward, right? We need to keep moving this forward so we have some just more detailed numbers. Are we saying we're going to have a special meeting before the 18th to discuss this before we vote on it? Or are we going to do this again at the 18th with a breakdown, a little more of a breakdown between here's the park with amenities, here's the park with everything else that can be done with the additional parking?
Phasing. I would, my personal opinion is based on timeline and just working with the state is to have a special meeting. So if we have to make any more adjustments, I really prefer you to evaluate it, look at it. If you, well, fine, approve it on the special meeting day. If you don't, then that would give staff more time to readjust and come back to 18th. Because if we wait till the 18th and it's not quite tweaked the way you want it, then we'd have to wait till February. So
But I don't think we're asking for that. We're just asking for more information based
you-
on what we're seeing here, just
are you-
more bands, right?
Are
We're just,
are you asking us to approve it how this looks right now?
no. Tonight's no action item. Yeah.
So you're gonna provide us more information as to, because I'll be honest, I don't think it's gonna be 24. I think it's gonna be like 28. But are you gonna bring us the peeled back breakdown of how you guys brought it up and where it's being charged and who, just so we can kind of, because our job's gonna be to line and.
here's the park with amenities that we have to have. Here's the park
good with
with
that.
what the community said, and here's the park with what
And
we-
I'm
we
good
could
to
add
say
with
yes or
parking.
no on that day.
that
Yeah.
that would help.
Yeah,
So
and
they
I-
kind of
but-
see the different
And I
phases.
think a special meeting would be important because it gets us back on the timeline better.
Okay, but do you want a special meeting? I'm just looking at my
Yeah.
calendar. Do you need a special meeting the first week of January, the second week of January? What day are you talking about?
I was thinking, we'll work early January.
Okay, so the first week, Trader, which, you're around?
I'm leaving on the.
Could Zoom. You could Zoom, right?
I'm gonna be the
Yep.
council, yeah, I'm gonna Zoom.
So we can.
Well,
Special
We
meeting,
can reach out and set a date.
if you could.
Okay.
So are we agree we need one more meeting to look at this in a little more detail?
And
You
I
got the
also-
idea though, right? What we want to see.
January the 7th.
And previous administration did leave a sheet, and I forwarded that to our interim finance director, Carlos, of funding sources for the park besides just a grant. So I think that would be important for us to show you.
Thank
again.
you. And before we move, do we have any comments from anybody here tonight? Anybody would like to talk about what they've heard tonight? Okay. We have anybody on the line, city clerk, like to make any comment at this point? Thank you.
As a reminder to the callers that we have on Zoom, if you wish to address council, please use the raise your hand feature and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, at this time, there are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will thank everyone for a really good discussion, really difficult discussion, which we're going to have more of as we get closer to this park becoming reality. Thank you. Item 4, consideration of an employment agreement with Fernando Santion for city manager services. Report, please.
Okay. You want me to start,
ahead.
Ralph? Okay. So council, before you tonight is a proposed employment agreement with Mr. Santion. for city manager services. The proposed agreement has a 3-year term, and by law, I need to take you through the major financial provisions of it before you vote on it and get community feedback as well. So for the 3 years, year one would run from December 8th, 2021 to December 7th, 2022. And this annual base salary would be $188,000. Year two would run from December 8th, 2022 to December 7th, 2023, and the base salary would be $197,000. Year three would run from December 8th, 2023 to December 7th, 2024, and the base salary would be $207,000. The under the termination provisions, if you were to terminate the city manager and he was willing and able to perform the duties of city manager, so you're terminating him without cause, it would be a 9-month severance that the city would pay out. The insurance provisions, the city shall pay the full monthly premiums for medical insurance and dental optical coverage for employee and his eligible dependents. The city shall also pay the monthly premiums for life insurance to cover the employee, and the life insurance coverage shall be equal to $100,000. With respect to the automobile and professional development, during the term of the agreement, if the employee exclusively uses his personal vehicle for city-related business, the city shall pay employee a $500 per month automobile allowance. With respect to vacation, sick, and other supplemental benefits, the city shall provide employee with vacation, sick, and holiday pay in the same manner as provided to all other city employees. The city shall provide up to $5,000 in reimbursements to employee associated with relocation costs should he choose to relocate to the city of Selma. Beginning December 8th, 2021, employees shall be eligible for 8 days of administrative leave, which could be used at the employee's discretion and upon prior written notice to the city council. Out-of-pocket expenses, the city shall also provide employee a monthly mobile telephone allowance of $125 for use of his personal mobile telephone and carrying out his duties as city manager. And I believe those are the major provisions of the agreement. Does council have any questions?
So many questions?
I do not.
Okay, that's my report.
Thank you. Bringing that back, do we have any comments from anyone here tonight? Do we have anybody on Zoom or on the phone? Like to make a comment about this agenda item?
As a reminder to the callers that we have on Zoom, if you wish to address council, please use the raise your hand feature and we will select you from the meeting queue. Robertson, we have no hands raised.
With that, we'll bring this back to council. There are no comments. I'd like to say, Fernando, before we make the vote, if you'd like to step up, if you have anything you'd like to say.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I do have a few brief comments if that is okay.
Your time.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the Selma City Council. It is an honor and a privilege to be considered for appointment as the next city manager for the city of Selma. My pledge to you and to the Selma community is that I will do everything within my power and abilities to improve the quality of life for all Selma residents. And I will work diligently under your direction to lead this organization with the highest degree of competence, integrity, and respect for the community. I'm extremely optimistic about Selma's future, and I know everyone on the council is as well. And I believe that if we continue the positive direction in which we are currently headed, the sky is the limit for us as a city and as a community. The City of Selma staff are extremely dedicated and hardworking. I have witnessed firsthand the extent of their dedication, responsiveness, and desire to serve our residents with the utmost respect and humility. I look forward to continue to serve alongside our amazing city team to make Selma a better place for all. Thank you once again for the opportunity to continue to serve Selma.
Thank you. You know, you've really achieved a rarity. You've gotten a 5-0 vote out of this council, a unanimous vote for you to be our next city manager. And I, for one, am really encouraged, and I've watched you come to the city and grow and just show how much you do care about the city and about the people, and how you really are on track to make our city, help us make the city a more livable place through economic development, commercial development, and always remembering that, public safety is that bedrock that everybody deserves, no matter where they live. So thank you for that. And I would like to mention that after the vote, this is not necessarily a proper swearing in ceremony. We would like to do a proper swearing in ceremony pending the vote at our meeting in January, where you can have the family come out. With that, we'll bring it back. If there are no other comments, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Okay,
second it.
okay, call the roll, please. This is a vote to approve the contract as it was just read. Would you like to call the roll, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, congratulations, our newest city
Thank you so
manager.
much. Thank you.
That, we will move on to item 5, approving the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute professional services agreement with Opengov for electronic permitting software. Report, please.
Apologies. I should have just stayed up here. Give me one. Mayor, members of the council, this item before you is with regard to a project that we've been working on for quite some time now. As you know, we received significant grant funds through planning grant programs that the state has offered over the last couple of years. And the city council decided to utilize a big portion of those grant funds to upgrade our permitting system, which is currently a manual paper-based system that we use to take applications for everything from planning entitlements, building permits, rezoning, zone text amendments, really everything that most of the services we provide at the city are paper-based at the moment. With this project, we hope to essentially bring us into the 21st century and offer our residents, the community, a much more efficient way to apply for these permits. This system that we have selected Opengov to provide for us promises to be much more user-friendly. It's going to speed things up, and most importantly, I think, in addition to the benefits to the community, our staff is going to be able to process permits a lot more quickly. We're going to be able to track the status of projects much more easily. And it's just going to be a much more efficient, smooth process for our development services and other services. So we did issue an RFP. We went through an RFP process and we sat through a few demonstrations on different vendors, and Opengov stood out above all the rest. And we are very happy with the selection that we have made, and we received very favorable pricing from Opengov, which we hope to utilize the surplus of that to implement additional features and upgrades to our permitting system. So if there are any questions on anything in the staff report or in the contract, I'd be happy to answer them. And we also have Andrew Kirkado with Opengov. He's our account representative, available to answer any questions about the system.
Thank you. That will bring it back to council. Does anyone have a question at this point about the software system?
Fernando, didn't we already approve this a while back ago in regards to going with this so that we can expedite the permits? Because, we've saw in the past, a few of them did fall through the cracks and created some, few issues, but so.
I believe what was approved in the past was the decision to allocate the grant funds for this purpose.
Okay.
And so now that we've gone through the RFP and selected a vendor, now we have to approve, the city council needs to approve the agreement to implement the system.
So is this a 3 or a 5-year agreement?
We opted for a 5-year agreement because the pricing was much more favorable, and we see us sticking with this software for a very long time.
And is the 159.6, is that just the cost to service it, to maintain it, and to continuously update the software with the ever-changing laws of the state of California?
That's correct. That's the 5-year total price. And the upgrades are automatic. It's a software as a service. So any upgrades that the vendor does to their system, we automatically get.
So the total cost is actually 159.6, or is it, that where does the 218,939 come in?
That's actually the,
That's the software cost, and the maintenance agreement is an additional 159?
no, it's, so the maintenance and the implementation is the 159,600 plus the initial, what would we call, Andrew, is it the initial implementation? That's the balance of that figure?
They're gonna optimize like a software and off-the-shelf software program for the city of Selma
It is, well,
itself, and
it'll
that's the
be,
60.
so it'll be customized to the city of Selma. So they'll help us create forms. They'll help us turn our existing forms into templates online. So the actual amount that we're spending on this system is
Subscription fee. Professional services, it just looks like there's a bunch of numbers here.
Hey, this is Andrew Mercado with Opengov. I might have cut out there for a second. Was there a question about the costs and the types of costs that were included here?
Right, that's the cost. What's the breakdown of the cost for the software and then the cost to implement it and get the updates?
Great. Yeah, so we've included the annual software cost at $26,000 per year. And the deployment fee is a one-time cost of $29,600. The deployment fee includes all setup, kind of consulting, best practices, all integrations, as well as training for staff. And that's just an hourly fee based on how big the scope was that we put together with the team. And then the annual subscription covers unlimited usage of the platform. All the support is also included. And as mentioned, all future updates that we make to the platform are included as well.
Okay, so the 26, you got to multiply by 5 because it's an annual software. So that's 130 plus the 29. So we're at 150. I get the 159.6. So that's the total cost.
Correct.
And above the 218,939 is just a number that you're
That
not
was the
authorized to
total
go
amount that-
beyond, or what does that
correct.
mean?
The 218 was the total amount that was budgeted for this project. So
Okay.
we saved a significant amount from
Wow,
that
so
amount.
they came in way under budget, like 58,000. Okay. You don't hear that too often. That's awesome. We like that. Okay.
Fernando, you shouldn't have told me that. Just kidding.
Well, we're about to pass it, so you can't, yeah, it's too late. But thank you for your professionalism.
Sure.
Does anyone have anything they would like to say at this point? Do we have anybody on Zoom or online other than Andrew? Come on up.
Franco 1064 Mill Street. Just a general information question. I don't know if I missed it. How soon will this software be implemented once you guys purchase it? That was it.
Is it summer of 2022?
Well, and Andrew, you can fill in any blanks here if you'd like. We are hoping to start the implementation as soon as possible this month.
Wow.
But I
okay.
think a reasonable timeline is about 6 to 8 months to have it fully up and running.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, that's correct. I think we are saying around 6 to go live and 8 for kind of final sign off. Once we call go live support is completed.
Great. It's really going to be a step forward, several steps forward. Okay, is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, and one last question for our new city manager. Is this an interactive system where people can actually on-screen fillable permits and then they can print them out and get the smaller ones? Like a yard sale permit or something?
Absolutely. Everything will be hosted online, and they're not PDFs that people can fill in. It's an actual web form, and that'll go onto a backend that we can process electronically. It'll be 100% electronic.
And so they can have that on their cell phone if the code compliance comes around and they're doing a yard sale on Saturday and say, here it is.
That's correct.
Right, okay. Thank you. That will move on to staff reports. Interim city manager,
Nothing to report.
thank you. City attorney,
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
okay. Deputy city manager, Santion, community development director in the past.
Thank you, Mayor. So one quick update. We had a really good call with Caltrans this morning, and they gave us an update on the work that they're doing on the 99. They're hoping that by Friday, weather permitting, they'll start doing some what they call detour. So they'll shift the traffic over on the 99. Basically, they're going to close the northbound on and off ramps at Manning to be able to do some of the work that there's some of the shoulder work. So that's going to be something that they're going to be initiating. But I think the most impactful piece of that work that they're going to be doing on the 99 to Selma specifically is when they close Floral, the northbound off ramp and on ramp to Floral Avenue, which would be in about 8 months. And they did give us, they'd let us know that they're going to notify us well in advance to be able to coordinate any potential detours, anybody who wants to kind of avoid that
Will that be
area.
night work only?
I'm sorry.
Will that be night work or will that be day work as well?
I understand that most of it will be night work. There might be some day work that would affect traffic, but right now, most of the work is being limited to between Merced Street to just north of Floral Avenue, and that Manning on and off ramp northbound will be closed for about 4 to 5 months is what they're estimating.
Okay. So that's going to create some impact on Selma's exit. Okay, thanks for that information. Hey, we get a report from our interim finance director.
Members, Carlos Sanchez, interim finance director. Boy, seems
That
to have
time of
lost
year.
it right after. Oh, I just wanted to report, we have an accountant that we've hired, her name, Castro. But I'll just come by someday here.
Public Works Director, Shane Farrell.
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Fire Chief Peterson. Thank you. Police Commander Garza.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Renee Garza, Police Department Commander. I have several items that I need to report that I would like to report, so I will try to breeze through this as quickly as I can. Everything on here is going to be very important. I apologize for not being here at the last council meeting. I was actually in Dana Point finishing up my post-management course where I successfully graduated from Long Beach University with my post-management course, so that was pretty exciting.
Congratulations. Way to go.
Thank you. So that's why I was absent at the last council meeting. Speaking of tobacco, we actually just acquired a $335,000 tobacco grant that we're going to be able to use for the next 4 years, starting in June of 2022. That grant is going to allow us to conduct tobacco enforcement and tobacco education to the schools here in Selma. So I'm very excited about that grant. Took us a while to get that. But as you know, we do have another existing grant at the time. At the moment, it's pretty much the same grant. So we're kind of doing the same thing. The only different with this grant, it's a lot more money. The last one was, I want to say, about $200,000. This one's $335,000. So really proud of that. And speaking of grants, this police department also acquired a $35,000 alcohol beverage control grant from the state of California. So we are excited with that. And that as well is going to allow us to implement education and also enforce underage drinking. So we're pretty excited about that as well.
What was the total on that?
35,000. It was 35,000 is some change. Should be, and I'm actually preparing a staff report to get that passed so we can implement that grant. So you'll see that hopefully in the next council meeting. Unfortunately, back on November 24th, a day before Thanksgiving, at about 7:49 p.m., some officers were dispatched to the area of C and Aaron Street for reports of multiple shots fired. Upon officers' arrival, officers located a male subject with multiple gunshot wounds. Upon officers' arrival, they did render first aid until paramedics arrived on scene. The victim was eventually transported to Selma Adventist Hospital, where the victim later succumbed from his gunshot wounds. This crime appears to be gang-related, and the investigation is active and ongoing. The victim was a Selma resident, 24 years old, and it's very unfortunate. In my opinion, one homicide is one too many. Obviously, this is our second homicide of the year. I will say that homicides are up nationally. If you've been watching the news or reading the news, it's just unfortunate that 2021 is going to be the deadliest year for homicides across the nation. On this incident, some officers were actually down the street handling another call for service, obviously unrelated to this. The officers can actually hear the gunshots coming from that call for service that they were handling at the time. So they were out and about, they were in the area, they were doing what they do, and unfortunately this incident happened. Before I move on to the rest of my items on my report, does council have any questions regards to that incident?
I have a question.
Yes,
You sent us a report, and I just want to clarify, and I think I misunderstood it. I wanted to get some clarification.
Sure.
Is it from what you've stated to us in our report that in 2019, 2020, the fiscal year, our administration dismantled the gang task force team?
They did.
So when
I'm
you
sorry,
say-
sir, go
So when you say they, and one of the biggest points that I was reading here was that, well, the administration in 2019 and 20 dismantled the gang task force team. Did we lose all the information that was there also, or do we still have that information? Because I know in past experiences that I've been many years ago, we formed a police station. I found that the reports that gather, that's intel. So we have people that go out and they're in the weeds to speak. They get information and they understand who are gangs and who aren't and what gang they are, and right? And we have an officer, we have people that do we still have those people, or they're out now, they're just patrolling? Or do we have any of that intel still, or are we gonna start from, do we have any of that information?
So as far as intel, I mean, we gather intel as we go. We get intel all the time. Our patrol officers are out there, during stops or, consensual stops or detainment. We're always
Getting intel.
gathering intelligence no matter what. Now, as far as having a team specifically going out and doing what we call suppression, enforcement, and just being extra eyes and ears out there and specifically tackling crime instead of just handling calls for service, because that's what normally our patrol officers do. we don't have a team that no longer does that. That team was disbanded, and that was next on my report. I'm glad you brought it up, Mr. Trio. So yes, during the 2019-2020 fiscal year, administration disbanded the TRT team, which is known as the Tactical Response Team, the Problem-Oriented Policing Officer, and the Magic Officer. That was a total of 5 officers. There were 3 officers on the TRT team. 1 officer was assigned to Magic, and 1 officer was assigned to the Problem-Oriented Policing Team. Those teams were disbanded, and actually the officers were brought back to patrol. So they were filled, they were
The
put
Magic
at the
team
patrol
was
level.
countywide. Magic isn't Selma. Magic is county, right? And Selma had 1 officer that joined the Magic team. So you're saying at the county level, the Magic team was disbanded and they were all sent back to patrol in the departments where they're from?
No. What I'm saying, we had 1 officer assigned to Magic as what we call a, is still employed with the city of Selma, but assigned to Magic. That officer was pulled from the Magic unit by the administration.
But what you're trying to actually, what I know about this is that you have a joint powers agreement between all the cities in the county. And because one of our officers goes to participate, they go and they venture into our town too, because we have an officer participating.
Yeah, you get a big bang for your buck,
You get a
because
big bang for your
you
buck.
send them 1 and then they send a dozen and sometimes 2 dozen because,
And they come
and
and
it's
they
free.
trash and they clean house, okay?
That's
So
correct.
my bigger question, I want to go back to this, is the fact that we right now don't have our gang tactical team. No longer.
We don't have anyone assigned to gangs
There's no
now.
suppression right now.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of, we're utility officers. We're doing, you should, as a patrol officer, that should be one of your duties, is to
So
enforce
Commander,
gangs.
who makes that decision to assign someone to a tactical gang unit, a gang response unit? Who
That
makes
would
that
be
decision?
that would be the decision of the chief of police.
Okay, so since we don't have a chief of police right now, that decision's not being made.
Well, we do
Correct.
have, we do have a chief of police. And I'm filling in as the commander.
Sorry, on an
Point of
active,
clarification,
on
point of
duty chief of
clarification.
police.
The chief of police in 2019 and 2020 budget wiped out our tactical gang force team.
That's correct.
Right, thank you. That's all I wanted. You can move on your form.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That was the
did-
chief of police at the time in 2019,
Yes.
who eliminated that position in the budget and
It-
didn't say anything,
Budget, he eliminated the tactical.
but that would have been noticed in the budget. That would have been noted in the budget,
He didn't
putting those
eliminate the
people,
budget, he eliminated- The money's still, the officer's still working.
but
The-
that would have
The
been.
officers were pulled from the tactical team. And so we're talking about 2 different things here.
Yeah.
You have the TRT team. It's had 3 officers.
I
That
get
was
it, the
our
money
own
stays the
in-house
same,
team.
but it's a change that would have been
Brought to
spoken
council.
about during
Yeah.
the budget of 2019.
Yeah, and I believe it was sometime in 2019, 2020, there was a discussion. I can actually, if you'd like, I can get with the interim city manager and send him that information. And I believe he might have it. But is that okay, Mr.
So it's just good to
Jimenez?
know that the police chief is the one that comes up with assigning a gang unit, though, decides on whether to have officers assigned to Magic and whether to have a gang unit.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So during the holiday season, we have increased heavy patrol. We have deployed extra officers. We come to a point where officers are entitled to their annual vacation per their MOUs. And, some of the senior officers want to take time off during the holidays. You can't blame them for that. It's very rare that we have Christmas and Thanksgiving off. And, when you have enough time here being with the city, they use that seniority to their advantage. So what we've been doing has been filling those officers or those slots with other officers. So we're not spread thin in the city because, as you know, there is always an uptick in crime during the holiday season, unfortunately. Then as far as our personnel, we have actually the report that I sent you the report that 2 police officer candidates were offered conditional offers. we just offered another officer, conditional offer, for employment. So that's a total of 3. That's very exciting. Upon the completion of their psychological exams, we hope to get them started, hopefully first week of January. That's our goal. And we have offered, actually, we have 2 safety dispatchers who are also in backgrounds at this time, which is good. We're at this around the clock. It's very, very competitive to hire officers. Very, very competitive. There's just competing with other agencies in the valley. Coming these next years, there's going to be a lot of restrictions. The age requirement's going to change. They're going to start requiring education. So we are going to be more restrictive. Now you just need to be 21 with a high school diploma. Now, like I said, there's going to be those requirements. You're going to at least need a 2-year degree. So those are going to be some challenges. And we're competing with all these other agencies who are, they just, they're hiring. They're hiring and it's just very competitive. I do want to report that 3 officers did approach me, and I humbly respect these officers for doing so. 1 officer, actually 3 officers are applying out to other agencies. They've pretty much at the end of their rope as far as in regards to the career here with Selma. And we're talking about officers that have been here between 3 to 5 years.
What does at the end of the rope mean? Like, they just don't like it here anymore, or
No,
they don't want to be
actually,
here? They
none
wanna
of them said that today. They all said they love working for the city of Selma.
Okay.
And if you want me to be honest with you, Mr. Mayor and council,
Be good.
their whole reason for leaving is for wages.
The money?
I just really careful in regards to what I say, because I'm here just to
I
report.
hear what you're saying, and I mean, my retort might be, and it wouldn't be a retort, but just a quick response is it because we're not paying enough, or is it because they're paying so much? Like Clovis is offering these bonuses and Fresno's offering, but there's some pretty outrageously good offers by the larger cities. And am I right in assuming, and am I straying a little bit too far, but are they applying to the larger cities? May I make that assumption?
Well, I'll go ahead and, there's a constant challenge to recruit in the smaller communities when you're competing against the Fresno Sheriff's Office and Fresno Police Department, even Clovis PD. But you're absolutely right. People are really looking at creative ways of attracting employees now. And things like signing bonuses, are being offered up. And so, it's something that we're tracking very closely. We just negotiated a contract over the summer. It's a multi-year agreement, but, we just have to keep tracking it. You might have to come back and re-examine that down the road.
Thanks for your honesty, and thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Those are tough conversations that, no one wants to talk about, but retention's huge. And I'm very proud of the men and women of the police department. And I think we're doing amazing things. We can't put a patrol car in every street corner, but they work hard. I was hearing from them on Thanksgiving, they're going call to call, and we're going to get through this.
Given your refreshing candor, Commander Garza, can I ask another question?
Yes.
Are we on the cusp of a serious gang problem in Selma? Are we experiencing that?
I can't really predict that. I mean, we have seen a slight uptick in gang activity, but gang activity kind of it's like when you go skiing, you got the slopes. It's an up and down process. And all these early releases from prison are not helping us at all. AB 109 is not helping us at all either. We do have the ACT teams that are out there who are doing around the clock probation searches. That has helped us, but it's just, it's
In a
almost kind of
diplomatic
like what
way
I
of
call the
saying,
Band-Aid effect.
yes, but it comes and goes.
It does.
Okay.
It does, yes. Then just to report some special events, on November 2nd, Selma Police Department conducted a DUI enforcement detail. During that DUI detail, 2 individuals were arrested for DUI on a Saturday night. Our next, this is actually going to be a stationary DUI checkpoint, is going to be December 10th, scheduled during the evening hours, which is this Friday. So you're going to be seeing a lot of police cars out there. And remember that these details are not just for DUIs, they're for all crimes. It's a great deterrent to deter all crime, and just just a reminder for people to think twice about drinking and driving.
Is that $25,000 grant, does that cover some overtime for the DUI checkpoints?
Yeah,
the
so
city
we
just
actually
got?
have what's called the DOJ Burns Grant that we're able to utilize towards that DUI enforcement. All the special events, we try to use the grants to pay for that, so it doesn't come out of our general fund. And then last but not least, this last Thursday, 12 employees from the Selma Police Department attended. We did our in-house training, which we haven't did in years, which I hope to bring back and do it on a quarterly basis. 12 employees attended domestic violence training and other trainings such as stop sticks, which is like, if you're familiar with the spikes sticks, we call them stop sticks, and basically it's to immobilize a vehicle that's involved in a pursuit or that we need to immobilize for safety reasons. That could be a danger to the community. And they also did some other trainings such as vehicle pursuits, what we call Title 15 training, has to do with everything with the jail housing of prisoners here at the facility, and Narcan training. So, and actually we have another one scheduled tomorrow to cover the rest of the department. So we're doing a lot of good things. Education's huge, communication's huge. So we're just trying to,
Commander, can I ask just
Go
one
for it.
last quick question? Where are we in the evolution of getting body cams on our officers, body cameras?
So we are in, so what I plan on doing in January, I'm glad you actually talked about that. I want to do what's called succession planning. Pretty sure everybody knows what that is, of start planning now of where we want to be in the future. And body cams is going to be one of them that we want to add to our plan. It's a very, very expensive piece of equipment. It takes a lot of logistics, but they are great to have, in my opinion. Other people may have a difference of opinion, but if you're asking me, I think body cams would be great. But the only problem is because of the cost, it gets very expensive. I can see in the near future, our state legislators mandating all agencies in the state of California
Getting there.
to require body cams. So if they do that, maybe they'll pay for it.
They'll fund it. That's right.
That'd be
So,
good.
They
A
will.
funded
yeah.
mandate.
They should fund
So
it.
I'm glad you asked, and we're hoping to actually add that to our succession planning. Hopefully we'll have some discussion in January.
I just have a quick question. Commander, did the damage to the police building get repaired?
It has not. So I followed up with Human Resources last week, and they reached out to Risk Management, and they still haven't got an update. So it's in the Office of Risk Management at this time.
They should expedite that. But was it the insurance money's not coming through?
They needed insurance information from the parties, and so we had to.
Because it
provide that.
involves the third parties that caused
Exactly,
it.
exactly. So the IRMA is in the process of reviewing that, and so hopefully they'll get back to us as quickly as
I
possible.
think they could pay and then just subrogate against the
Yeah, it's true.
insurance.
Bad, but, okay, thank you.
I actually have one more thing that I need to add. The Fire Chief just reminded me. If you can mark your calendars for February 2nd, we plan on hosting a swearing in for police and fire for all new hires that who were unable to have an official public swearing in in front of their families because of the pandemic.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, and we plan on having that at the Art Center. And I believe the times are going to be about anywhere between 5:30 start time, 5:30, 6 p.m.
Okay.
And so it's going to be exciting. A lot of employees.
Can we attend that without violating the Brown Act, without calling a meeting?
Well, it'd be best to notice it, Mayor, if you're all going to be there and be commenting but you could do it. It's public perception is what it is.
Okay,
It's public perception.
notice it as a meeting, city clerk. Case.
Okay. If no one has any questions, thank you for your time.
Thanks very much,
Thank
Commander.
you.
Parks and Community Services Director, Mike Kirschner.
Mayor Robertson, members of City Council, thanks for all your input and look forward to continuing on this process. Tomorrow is a grant is due through the state of California we're applying for just over $40,000 for the Art Center. As of November 1st, we can start getting reimbursements for the $28,500 to help offset the deficit of the Art Center due to COVID. Townsend will be submitting an application tomorrow for additional $40,000. And so we're very hopeful if we can pull off the 40,000 along with the 28, then we back to even and put COVID behind us, at least at the Art Center temporarily. Zoot Suit was sold out every show but one. And so it's actually looking for an encore. People want us to bring it back. Somebody came in the other day and
Yeah.
asked if we could
Yeah.
buy a video of it. So very happy.
I hope it comes back. It
Yeah.
was a great
Yeah.
show.
It was a great show. Just some bad news. Unfortunately, at the senior center, we've lost a senior last 2 weeks, a big volunteer who helped with the commodities. And if you say prayers for Irene Boyd, she did have a heart attack last night. Possible. She's a volunteer who's there every day also.
Who did we lose?
Um,
No, we didn't lose. She had a heart attack, but
oh no, her last name was,
that's okay. Just email me.
yeah, she did our volunteer work just for the commodities.
Okay,
So other than that, appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, council reports. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
I just have a few things I had a meeting with Tim Jones to further discuss the Selma Crossing area. He was able to provide a little bit more of his vision that he sees for that area. I also was invited to the grand opening for Maravillosa at Campus Point near Fresno State. That is actually Mr. Ed Cashin's project. And it's a 55 plus active adult living facility. So it's a really nice facility. It's just very nice. I was like, can I put myself on the wait list for that? Because I'm sure it's going to be, there's going to be a long wait list. During that time, there was a lot of dignitaries there. And one of them that I got to meet and talk to a little bit was our state treasurer, Fiona Ma. I was able to speak with her because I do a lot of work through my regular job with the California Allocation Tax Credit Allocation Committee. So it was good to see personally the emails that I get, like put a face to the name. So I also had a brief conversation with Senator Ana Caballero. Very nice. I participated in the Selma Chamber of Commerce Electric Light Parade. It was a really good turnout. There was a lot of people. It was kind of a last minute because I wasn't supposed to be in town. So I was glad that that I was able to participate in that. And I'm not sure whose beautiful car I was driving, but thank you to who sent that car out. And during this time of the year, I do a lot of reflection. And so I know that it's about our first year anniversary this week since we were sworn in. And I know that we've done a lot of, we've had a lot of challenges, but I think that we've done a lot of groundwork I think that we're really setting the foundation for what's coming up next. And so I've just been doing a lot of reflection and I'm just really excited. And I wanted to welcome Fernando as our new city manager. And I'm going to leave you with a quote that my old CEO left us with when we hired our new CEO. He said, don't look at this like a new page that you're starting. Don't even look at it as a new chapter. You're starting a whole new book. So make it your own. And, you're going to do really good things here. I know that I've already seen a lot that you've done, coming on board in such a short amount of time. So I'm really excited for the next 3 years. So welcome and thank you.
Member Trujillo?
I have a couple of items. First, I'd like to start on a personal note. I want to thank the Selma Fire Department. You guys responded to my father-in-law's home, and I really appreciate you guys there. I was sincere, and you guys were there, and I really appreciate how you guys handled my wife, and so I thank you guys for that. That's really was emotional. I also met with Tim Jones, and I reflect back on when we actually talked to him. There were a lot of key words that he meant and he talked, and he's a very valued person as a developer. Words that were spoken were master plans and what we need to do in this community. It's a joyful to talk to developers that are saying, hey, your community is thriving and you guys want to build, and the invitation was really was an honor to sit there, and we probably had a meeting for about 4 or 5 hours, and it was a value meeting. It was very valuable. A lot of discussion. I also thank Ed Cashin for inviting me to that location because of the fact that he has value in Selma, and he has Selma on his courses, and these people are very, very, very influential. So I thank for participating in that. Councilwoman Mendoza Navarro explained about the 250 unit or senior home, which is great. Met with a couple elected officials that for the state in regards to the EIFD. That's a letter that we, the city, need. I think that we all as community leaders need to look for people that are going to try to push the envelope to make sure that we can, as long as we have all the key figures that are wanting to build in our community, it's our job to go out there and try to help together navigate our staff to get some help. So my job is to do that, and I have been doing it. I thank the people that are out there pushing the envelope for that. One of the key things that I want to come back to in regards to Ed Cashin and Tim Jones, the key word was SKF. So SKF is an important, vital component to our development for our community. So I want to make sure that our staff, and Fernando, you helm, I thank you for, listening to that, but keep that in mind. That's it's very key. And the fourth was I met, spoke with Caltrans, Diane Gomez. She gave me her word that she would work with you guys and push. So that's huge. She's going to be here for us, and hopefully that all works. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the parade. It was great. It was great to see everybody there, and we all participated. It brings community. It brings, togetherness, and that was really important. And because I didn't think we were gonna have that many people, but we did. So that was good. So in regards to some items that I think need to be, and I had police station repair the wreck. I know I had spoken to you guys, specifically in regards to get that point that's done. Number two is where are we at with the holiday lights? If I could get a report sent to us would be great.
Yeah, I emailed, actually, Interim City Manager and I emailed Thursday just to make sure they're on schedule. So they're supposed to be any day this week.
Oh, good.
She mentioned the 5th, but she actually meant the 6th because of the Sunday. So as long as shipping's fine, it'd be this week.
Okay. And my next one was I had requested a plaque to be put on the police station in regards to our former city manager, our former council members, everybody that was put on there. I think that's a valued statement in order to make sure. I'd like to request Bob Allen to be brought in. He retired. I think it'd be a good certificate of just an honorable note to make sure that he's a figure in our community. I think it'd be great to bring him back and request for him back. So there's been and I know Shane's been here, but I know there's a tree leaning on the fence of the CID on Orange Street. I think we've been talking about that for the last 2.5 years, 3 years. I know we've talked to CID, and if it's CID, if that fence and that tree's in our park. So can we get that fixed? And if we can't, find out why we can't get that fixed. I also talked about Dinuba and McCall, the light. Can we bring that back to council? I know COG, I know that we had got money, and I think that it sat somewhere. I want to know what happened, why it happened, and it doesn't happen again. Downtown repair, the revitalization, that money that was approved by COG. When are we can we bring that back to the council and have a discussion as to what, where, when, why, where are we at with that? Those are projects that, there's timeframes on those money. So Fernando, you're welcome for, here's my list. But I give it to you because of the fact that I know you're competent enough to get it done. That's why I do it. All right. Aside of that, I really want to thank our staff. Our staff, we've gone through a lot and we're going through a lot. But at the end of the day, we are doing well. We're doing good. We have a lot of developers that are talking really good about our community. And I tell you guys, thank you guys for all the hard work. Every single one of you guys. Thank you guys. That's it.
Councilmember Guerra?
Okay. I attended the chamber mixer at Martin's Jewelers, and I think that was a great idea to have it at the art center. And I think that any business that wants to do a mixer and wants to do it at the art center should be given to anyone or any business that would like to do that, because it was a really nice event. I know for the fact that our new city manager was his first time, and he says, do they do this all the time? Is this the first one? And it was really nice. And I think that, for any person that would like to do that, or business owner would like to host a mixer, should be able to do it there if they'd like. Because I know for a fact when we do ours, we'd like to do it and go all out as well. So I thought that was a great idea. I want to thank the chamber and everyone else that did that. That's a really great idea. Also, I attended the Christmas electrical parade, and I want to say hats off to the chamber, everybody that worked very hard to put this on. Let me tell you, it was a pleasure to walk around and talk to so many citizens and family members and people we haven't seen in a long time because they haven't been out. And it was great to see everybody out. We had vendors out there, nice people that were selling stuff. In fact, Julie Jules was selling this nice poncho, and that's where I bought it from. So I thought I'd wear it tonight just because it was so festive. But great idea. Thank you again to the staff, everybody that worked so hard to put that together, because those are the things we need. And I really, truly believe that when we come together and people work together, this is what we can do, and not take, if someone tells you something, don't take it personal, take it as a compliment. Like, okay, I can do something better next time, because that's what we want to do. And the only thing about that, I think Councilmember Trujillo and I talked about, is we just need more food vendors because the people ran out, and I get it. They probably didn't expect to have that many people, but let's face it, people, we're great. This community is great. We don't want to drive to Clovis. We don't want to have to go see a parade in Clovis or anywhere else for that matter. But this was a great turnout. I mean, we had Sanger did their parade that day. Fowler did theirs. Kingsburg did their thing, and Selma. And to have that many people, that shows that our community wants to come together. So again, my hat's off to everybody that was involved. The other thing is, I participated in the toy drive supporting the Knights of Columbus at the St. Joseph Catholic Church. That was, again, another event that so touches my heart. If any family out there or that have children that for some reason, you're in a difficult financial difficulties this year, please call. You can call Ernie Escalera at 559-999-7883. And he will help get gifts out there to children that possibly won't be able to get any this year if their families are having a difficult financial burden. So, and then with that, I just want to say, I want to thank the entire staff. This is our last meeting for this year. And I want to wish everybody, everyone's and their family a Merry Christmas. And we will see you next year. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Yes, okay, since the last council meeting, I've been talking about the Thanksgiving, senior Thanksgiving meal. That went really well. I say I appreciate all the organizations that donated to it. I'm gonna go ahead and list them. Central Valley Lions Club, Selma Lions Club, Selma Rotary, Kiwanis of Selma, Selma Care, Selma Women's Club, Selma Business Alliance, and Selma Chartered Lions. So each club gave us money, and it was like $1,900 total. And my budget, I went under the budget. I never usually spend the whole thing. So I usually leave some money for the next year coming up. So it stays in the senior account, in the city. All the checks that they made goes to the city of Selma. And that's basically how that project is funded. And every year it's been like that. We plated 375 plates. It went really smooth. I had some really great help from my Leos and everybody that worked on it, and it went out the door really fast. We started at 7, we were done by noon. So that was really fast. Okay, and I was really proud of my group that helped me on that. See what else is there. I was invited to the ribbon cutting in Fresno. And it's a different concept now. They don't want to be called seniors. They want to be active adults, because like right there, that concept is there's a theater there, they could walk there. There's restaurants there, they can walk there. And then Save Mark Center is right across the street almost. So the concept is coming now because usually now with the generation is still active, but they don't need the big houses anymore. So that they can even travel better, so it's the times. And that's how I think that's where we're going towards. So hopefully we might be able to do one in Selma. Chamber mixers, you're asking. Usually you call the chamber office. We book one every month. Since COVID, we didn't have any, but I think by next year we'll be starting. So any businesses that wants to book one, just call chamber office and we'll be able to book one for you. So it's once a year, okay? Let's see what else I have. I missed our Christmas parade. Sorry about that. I went to my brother's retirement. He was retiring from actually martial arts. So I was in a room full of martial art people. It was really unique. And they're from all walks of studios, a different kind. There's people I haven't seen like 20 years, 30 years. They came and showcased my brother, and it was really, really nice. And we did it at Fresno City College because he's a professor over there. So that turned out really good. They did the lion dance for him and did some roasting. so even, he's ready to retire, and it was good to see all the people, all his ex-students and his ex-fighters. These guys train, and it's really, the respect is there. And that's what I spoke a little bit and saying, it's so nice to see people, your respect always should go back to your teachers, your sensei, your sifu, and your masters. And that is really, I think our world, the respect is a good thing to keep following. So that's how I miss my Santa. Sorry. So I think that, Selma Care, one more thing. Selma Care will be happening December 18th at the high school. They will be probably going out with 400 and some boxes of food. The vouchers comes from the school. Usually after the vouchers are done, then whoever needs the food, they lined up also for it. So, and that's one of our major projects from Selma Care on December. Okay. And also thank you staff for everything you've done. I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And Blanca, you're right. Blanca and I, this is our anniversary month year. We're still here. It's good. We survived. I have learned a lot, and I appreciate all you guys for the help. I needed a lot of help. But, and I think we're going the right direction. We're going positive direction. And I think the next few years will be good. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended a Calvans meeting, attended that chamber mixer in front of the Arts Center. Great idea. In the COVID it's good to have outdoor events like that. I attended a Fresno County Rural Transit Authority meeting after the Council of Governments meeting known as COG, as we talk about. I voted to award the bid opportunity to the two local contractors, Zumwalt and Harris, to build the $10 million maintenance facility. So that's moving forward really quickly. Moses Stites is making that go. And it looks like there's going to be a decision that comes down by early next year and construction shortly after that. So that's how it can be done. And I think that's really important to see that. And I love seeing that coming to Selma. I want to say thank you to Steve Johnson at Cal Water for taking care of a problem with a ratepayer. He jumped on it and really helped. This customer had a serious issue with a bill, and he provided some awesome customer service there. I attended that Chamber of Commerce Christmas parade on Saturday. Unbelievably cold for just that night, and then it was warm after that. But it really showed that a crowd could come out even when there are lots of other events going on. That is not an excuse for numbers not to come out to a Selma event like we've heard tonight. People really wanted to be there. They wanted to see Santa arrive, and they wanted to see that goodwill. And it was great walking around talking to people and really realizing again, after a year after we Selma citizens got to elect our own mayor, a year after we heard that from our two newest council members, that I'm proud to be on the Citizens Alliance of Selma. We don't have compliance issues. We don't have issues with paperwork. We just want the best for our city, and we just want to make it a more livable city and a safe city. And that's really what I realized. That's the bandwagon I'm on, not to ally with people for election purposes, but to be with the citizens, because they're the ones that drive this city. They're the ones we report to. They're the ones we answer to. And that really refreshed me Saturday, being there, being able to talk to everybody and being with the Selma Citizens Alliance. And with that, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, a Happy Hanukkah, any tradition that you celebrate. And thank you to staff for all your hard work and your professionalism and really propelling our city forward and doing us all proud. And with that, do we have any oral communications tonight? Do we have anybody on Zoom or online who would like to make a comment? Oh, we've got someone here who'd like to make a comment.
Rose Robertson, 1057 Mill Street. I'd like to say, first of all, for public safety, at the end of the day, it's always going to be the number one for not just our city, but for all cities. I'd like to thank public safety for listening to the citizens of Selma, and I'm going to go ahead and have the pinning. They're going to appreciate that you guys are listening to the citizens of Selma. They are concerned about our city. They're concerned about the gangs, whether you want to admit to it or not. We all know, we see it ourselves. We want to protect our children in our cities, and also within our schools. We're having difficulty within the schools as well. So I hope we're on top of that. Another question, we don't have body cams, but do we have any cameras in the police cars? That's my question. Do we have any cameras in the police? We do not have any cameras in the police vehicles either. Okay, hopefully that's coming soon, because we all know that whether body cams and cameras in the vehicle, cameras do not lie. So it's gonna be hopefully a positive thing, as citizens do want that for our officers, for safeties, and again, for cameras do not lie. I'd like to say congratulations to Fernando. I love the word dignity, which we definitely need in our town of Selma. So that's going to be a great start for our city of Selma, and what our citizens want for the city of Selma, and to teach our children and our next generations. So, and again, I'd like to thank the former city manager, Teresa Gallivan, who actually found you. So I got to give the credit where it's found. So again, thank you. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Do we have anyone online or on Zoom like to make a comment?
Caller that I show on Zoom, would you like to make a comment? Please use your raise your hand feature. Mayor Robertson, I see no hands raised.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
We are adjourned.